Once and a half and go down the line like right and left grab. Next one on the left, once and a half. Once and a half. Then down the line and right and left, other way, Kel. Like a right and left grab, once and a half around. Beat your own girl. Just where you said, right there.
That's the worst I've ever seen.
Now swing. It won't go no faster. That's as fast as it'll go. Turn around, Kel. Now they go left. Once and a half with each girl. Amateur dancers. We got a class starting next week. Side
Oh, she looks so good. She remembers me? Yeah, and I was asking about some old friends. She looks good. Now, you still in Dallas?
right and left grab, once and a half. Come this way there. There you go. All the way once and a half. Each one once and a half. Come back this other way. Once and a half.
I got your big. I got a brand new one. She's only 5 months old. I got 4 girls, 4 granddaughters.
I wish we had a video. That's pretty pitiful dancing. Especially to the best caller in the world. And you can see why we outlawed the once and a half around, because we had people that never would get the darn thing right. And somebody come around and hook that other elbow with that next person and then jerk their shoulders down. You got it recorded? Okay. It was recorded.
After every dance you have little after parties, and then we would all go to the hotel and have a Dr. Pepper. So we had gone to have our Dr. Peppers and Kool-Aids and stuff, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I went back to the room. And I slid my cart and hit the door and went thump, and it hit that little thing you flap over, you know, to stop the door. And he's in there asleep. So I'm, Flippo, Flippo! And he ain't answering. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, so I stick my face in the door. Flippo! Flippo! And he's still not answering. So I'm knocking and beating, and I'm worried I'm going to wake everybody up. Nobody's waking up. So I did it a couple more times. I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I go down to the desk, and I said, hey, do you have security or somebody to come unlock these doors? Because my roommate has locked me out. And she says, well, I think we can get it open for you. She said, well, let's try to call him again. I already called him 3 times. So we dialed the phone, and finally he answers the phone. And then she gives me the phone and said, Flip, man, you got me locked out. By the way, he did this 2 nights in a row. But anyway, so Flip, you got me locked out. And he goes, oh, man, he said, I'm sorry. And, you know, a few words in there. I'm sorry. And I said, that's all right, man, I'll be there in a minute. So I go down there and I get in the room and lock the door and I'm walking down and he goes, you know, K.O., he says, I was wondering why you wouldn't answer that damn telephone. That's all I got, Wade. You believe that? He said he's done.
I just got a story for you that I hadn't put it on. I wasn't going to tell this story until John got talking about Marshall was the talkingest caller he ever knew, which I think is somewhat contradictory. Because I met Flip in '74. I think that's the year I signed John's Sutry book, I think. Matter of fact, that first year. And I was brand new as far as public was concerned, and so I met him sitting in the caller's room having coffee and whatever, you know. And he said, "Thank you for signing my boy's signature book. Not a problem." He said, "How long have you been calling?" I said, "Just pretty close to it in public." You know, I said, "Been my dad's thing," but he wouldn't let me call anywhere near because he said it's going to be so bad he didn't want me in the area. So, which is right. So he said, "When are you calling?" I said, "Well, I've got a 3 o'clock pattern this afternoon." And I said, because my dad booked us, registered us as father and son. They thought I was son, not son. So I have a 3 o'clock pattern this afternoon. It was the only thing I got. So he said, "No problem." So I come back in there later that night and finish my pattern. He says, "I listened to your pattern this afternoon." I said, "Really? Flippo wouldn't listen to my pattern?" I didn't have to hear anything else. That was enough, really. But I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, "I thought it was great." He said, "Now, you're using the wrong music, and it's too fast, and you talk too much. But other than that, it's pretty good." So I'm going to tell you, John, he didn't always believe what he did.
That's all I got. Next.
Make a line. Make a line.
I'm not a caller.
Oh, no, we don't let him sing.
They won't let me sing. Actually, in church, when I sat down, they moved the hymnal away from me. So. When I was working on that video, the time I spent was going through the memories. And the things that... Can you not hear? Hello? Hello? I can hear that. Don't do that. Speak up. Okay, how about now? There you go. Get behind him. Okay, how now? That better? All right. Anyway, most of the pictures that I've got, 40 years some odd pictures of Marshall, and I can just look at the picture and start laughing. You know, and every one of these skits, every one of us has seen him 100 times. And when he came on stage after the after party or during an after party, you'd seen the skit, but you just couldn't help but laugh. And you know, that's where the thing came from. He makes me laugh because the world needs to laugh, and Marshall was the king of that. And you know, he was. Everybody knows one of a kind, fortunately for us. But we go back to the days and nights at Kirkwood Lodge where we would dance and then we would have an after party and then we'd sit out on the patio and talk until 3 or 4 in the morning and get up for breakfast at 6 and start all over again.
Well, not both of us.
No. But Marshall was there the whole time. I mean, he was there in the dance. He was there in the workshops. He was there at the after parties and the after parties, and he never stopped. And we were just there for a week, but he was there all summer. And like I said, we have memories, and everybody in the room has memories, and everybody that's ever met Marshall's got memories. And his song, "We've Got the Memories," was kind of hard to locate. It turns out there's only one copy of it in the world left. And fortunately I was able to get a copy of it. But it fit the video just perfectly. And like I said, he's one of a kind, and we all have memories, and that's where I want to leave it, just memories and memories.
Thank you. I don't know if I should let the cat out of the bag, but
Who are you?
who are me? My sister's here. Everybody knows her. I'm Dee Dee's brother.
Older brother.
Older brother. So anyway, letting the cat out of the bag, Flippo couldn't teach at all. You know, after 50 years of traveling, he'd never done a class. that I know of. But at Kirkwood, you know, he had 25, 30 of the professional callers come through every week, and so he was always picking up stuff. And it wasn't until he came to Tucson, I think in 2000, that he really did his first square dance class. And we decided we were going to have a halfway dance. So he said, what call are you on? I said, well, we're almost up to Ferris wheel. He says, good. I'll have my group there by then. So they come over. He'd only had his class for about a month. And I started in November, he started in January, and we're at, you know, end of January. So the first tip, I could tell that he had not really done some of the initial basics. Especially when you say the men start right, then they look at you. So he made some phone calls, talked to another famous caller, Tony Oxendine, who had never done a class in his life, except for the one that he did at the country club. What's that? Oh, did he? Well, he doesn't need to hear this. So anyway, he did call a bunch of callers to try to figure out how to teach his first class. And after the first tip, it was just terrible. And I said, what's going on, Philip? He goes, oh, you're not calling the right stuff. He said, just get them started and they'll go. So I watched him call. It was the third tip. I watched him call. And he'd say, head square through 4, and this is what he taught him. Do-si-do, swing through, and boys run, and Ferris wheel, and pass through, and Alaman left. He'd done all that. But they could do all of that sequence before he got done with swing through. They were on automatic pilot. Another teaching example was when I was at Kirkwood. He was trying to teach swap around. It was when the swap around was on the plus list, I think. And he started off pretty good. He said, this is a box call. And somebody on the floor said, what's a box? He goes, and there was a box up there, and he pointed to it, and he said, this is a box. And he said, this is not a sexist call. Got nothing to do with sex. Which was good and true. Then he said, okay, let me explain it. This is when, you know how you do the girls walk and the boys dodge? This is kind of like the girls walking, but the boys are not dodging. Or you can think of it this way, girls. You can just think about passing. Or you can just think about doing a slide through without the turn. I hadn't got to the men yet, and the women still didn't know what to do. So he explains to the men, he goes, boys, this is kind of like you're in a diamond and you kind of like flip in, or you roll over, or you run. And then he goes, go. Nobody moves. Nobody moves. So he says, wait a minute, let me explain it different. This is when the ladies come across and the men roll over. Only the callers understand that.
All right. First time I met Flip was in 1958. Long time ago. And he was taller than me. Much taller than me at that time. But I've always loved the man. And I spent a few times rooming with him. And I know exactly what you're talking about, Cale. You didn't explain about him sleeping, though, and spitting up in the air. He always did that. He'd lay down there and he'd be going... And then he'd wake up. He'd say, Jay, call Shoemake, let's go to breakfast. 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, I can't call Shoemake at this time. He said, yeah, go ahead. I said, you gonna get mad? He said, call him. I called him up. Shoemake answers the phone. I said to him, Flip wants to go to breakfast. He says, I'll be right over. That's how kind of friends that man had. Everybody was always willing to be there for him. We have a tribute song here, and it's also a tribute to Lee Cotman and Frank Lane. We'd like to play that song for you too. So if you will let me. Anybody want to dance it? This is a square dance. It's coming out. We can dance it if you want.
Sure you want us to do
You
this
gonna do
again?
it?
Ladies and... No more, you're welcome.
In the square?
Yeah, don't put collars in there because they can't dance.
Back over here. Back over here.
We seen that last tip.
I'm gonna leave you good ones in the house.
What'd you say?
Once in a
Oh, once and a half, okay.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what I was hearing earlier too.
Here we go. Ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, this song is dedicated to three of the biggest icons our square dance activity has ever known. Larger than life they were. Frank Lane, Marshall Flippo, Lee Cotman. God bless you all. Rest in peace. This song is dedicated to you. Side space, grand square. Who's gonna fill their shoes? Who's gonna stand that tall? Who's gonna keep us laughing? Who's gonna write all the calls? Element, lip, and weave. Who's gonna give their heart and soul to get to me and you? Lord, I wonder who's gonna fill their shoes? Heads promenade halfway. This old world is full of callers. Square through four, but few are ever chosen. All the way, right and left through, turn your girl. Veer left, you'll Ferris wheel. Square through three, just imagine life without them. Swing promenade, like the sailor that walked through Nice's dreams. Heads promenade halfway, there'll never be another. Square through four, like the Dance Ranch or Kirkwood Lodge. All the way, right and left through and turn your girl. Veer left, Ferris wheel. Square through three, Cotman's Corner just won't be the same. Swing and promenade, Lord, I wonder who's gonna fill their shoes? Side space, grand square, who's gonna fill their shoes? Who's gonna stand that tall? Who's gonna keep us laughing? Who's gonna write all the calls? Element, lip, and weave. Who's gonna give their heart and soul to get to me and you? Lord, I wonder who's gonna fill their shoes? Sides promenade halfway, the famous Frank Lane's ranch hands. Square through four hands, Flippo's auctioneer man. All the way in now, the right and left through, turn your girl. Veer left and Ferris wheel. Square through three, Lee's new calls flowed like water. Swinging promenade her home. Their great gifts will always echo through the years. Sides promenade halfway, Barbara, Nisa, Lilith. Square through four, Lord knows we'll always love you. All the way, right and left through, turn your girl. Veer left and Ferris wheel. Square through three, old Frank, Flippin' Lee. Swinging promenade for me. On the world's greatest stage with God, they're now promenading home. Side space, grand square, who's gonna fill their shoes? Who's gonna stand that tall? Who's gonna keep us laughing? Who's gonna write all the calls? Element, lip, and weave. Who's gonna give their heart and soul to get to me and you? Lord, I wonder who's gonna fill their shoes? Ladies chain over and back. Lord, I wonder who's gonna fill their shoes?
Thank you, dancers.
I really thought he'd outlive
I want to say one more thing if you want to indulge me. Marshall was a founding partner, member, whatever, Caller Lab. And I just issue a challenge to all you callers here to set a memorial fund, a grant, scholarship, whatever you want to call it, to Caller Lab for new callers.
I'll make the first donation tonight.
We have that already.
You already have that?
Dana can tell you what we've got.
Is it a scholarship in Marshall's name?
No, not Marshall Bay.
No.
You can donate the money in his
In his
name.
name, okay, all right.
So we can donate the money in Marshall's
Our
name.
executive director sitting over there.
All right.
His secretary.
Does he take checks?
Some of you don't know me. My name's Bob Asp, and let's see, 3 years ago, excuse me, he asked me to, Flip asked me to take his place at RentCon. And I got to be one of the luckiest callers around, because I just got to spend 5 months with the man. Excuse me. But I got to know him really good, and I listened to stories about everybody here. I mean, he's told me stories about Letson and Tony, and his favorite one is Jerry, and that stuff. He told a lot of stories, but I can't repeat them or anything like that. But and then he was that. But I just felt like I was really lucky. He came down we were down there 5 years ago visiting my brother, and he said, "Bob, you got to come down here to RentCon and dance with him." Well, my wife Cinda was sick, and we couldn't get there. So a couple years ago, we were up in Mesa at the Caller Lab convention, and he said, "You're going to blow me off again this year, aren't you?" And I says, "No, I'm actually going to come down." So we come down to his donut dance, and he put me up to call, which I found out he never puts anybody up to call unless they're good or something like that. I guess he thought I was pretty good, but and so he sat there, and I went home that night, and I was at my brother's house. My brother's phone, he met my brother, and he found my brother's home phone, and he called my brother's home phone. He says, "Is Bob there?" And he said, I could hear him, and I said, "It was Marshall." And I said, "What's going on, Marshall?" And he says, "I'd like to take over the park from you." I said, "Never thought about it." But I says, "Well, come and talk to you. We're going to come to your dance on Wednesday night." So he says, "Good." So we're walking into the dance, and my wife is retired, and when she was retired, she said she would never wear anything else but Harley t-shirts and blue jeans, and that was it. So we're walking in there, and this lady, and Flip's coming out of his car, and we say hi, and this lady behind us says, "Okay, Flip, where are they at?" I said, "Well, they're right in front of you." And I thought, what the heck's going on? Well, we ended up doing an interview that night with the activity director, and his voice wasn't doing any good that night, but so I called most of the dance, and he got up the last thing, and he says, "And this is the man that's going to take over the park next year." And I says, "Flip, it ain't been decided yet." I says, "I do what my wife tells me." But we ended up taking over, then I got to spend 5 months with him. And then we went to Caller Lab, Lordsburg, New Mexico, 65 miles an hour, guys, because you better slow down, because you'll slow it. We're talking, and I zoomed right through the speed zone, and I'm doing 82 miles an hour through Lordsburg. And I looked in my rearview mirror, and I said, "Oh, crap." And he sits there, and I see, we pull over, I get pulled over, and Flip looks in the rearview mirror, and he looks at me, and touches my knee, and he says, "Bob, I think I can whoop his ass." I said, "No, Flip, no, Flip." So, but I got a ticket that day, and by God, he got on the phone, and by the time we got to Caller Lab in Albuquerque, everybody knew that I got a ticket. By the time I got back to Rincon on Thursday morning, there was a little pot. I had my DVD session that morning. There was a pot on the counter, and a little sign above it says, Bob's Speeding Ticket Fund. But it was just an experience being with him. I love him. Gonna miss him. I'm done.
I think most of you know I'm Dana Sherman, Executive Director of Caller Lab. And yes, we do have a Caller Lab Foundation, to answer your question, that explains all. If we can set up a special scholarship in Flip's name, and we've already talked to some of the members here in the club, I think, about that possibly happening. And we hope it does. Even if you don't want to do that, we can take donations in his memory, and we post it that way. And it goes for callers, scholarships and grants to help any way we can preserve square dancing. I'm up here also, I probably should tell the story. We started going down, my first wife and I started going down to Kirkwood, I think in 1982 was the first year we went. And we went every year thereafter for many, many years. My kids grew up down there pretty much. We have a week down there, they still remember that. And Flip and John both taught them how to ski. My oldest daughter didn't really want to do it too bad, but Flip talked her into going to try it one time. So she got in the water. He said, okay, I tried it. She washed out. She didn't make it. Okay, I'm ready to get out. He said, you can get out when you get up. About third time she tried it, she got up. And he said, okay, now you can get out. That went to it. But they both have fond memories. I have very fond memories. There's so many stories I could tell about Kirkwood and the fun we had there. I have so many memories, personal memories, that, I mean, I can't compare it to my 60th birthday party. I talked Flip and come do my birthday party dance for me. That was a thrill for me. Wade was there to go with him. And then I got to call Flip this year at the Caller Lab convention. That was another thrill for me. I guess one of the things I could talk about, when Flip left Kirkwood, the owners were looking for a caller to help with the non-square dance family weeks. These are families that come in, they party on the lake, and they want a little square dancing at night, dancing. And I said, I'd be happy to come down and help out once or twice, something like that. And they said, it'd be fine because we got another caller, he's gonna do it. If you can come and just fill in, we can. About a week before the first family week came in, they called me and said, hey, can you come down? We didn't realize how important this was to these families coming in. They all are calling and threatening to not come if we don't have square dancing. I said, yeah, they're so happy to come down the first week and do that. Ended up, they came to me the next week and said, we want you to do it again because we don't have anyone else lined up. And I can't remember the last name, and Nisa might remember, John. An older lady, her name was Joe. Remember the last name?
Joe Patrick.
Joe Patrick, yeah. Her group came in on Sunday night, and I'm up there on the stage trying to entertain. And it was an older group, so they weren't really wanting to get up and dance too much. They just did a little bit, and they sat down. And as much as I tried to get them up, they sat there and just socialized. So about half an hour into it, I got off stage. I went around talking to people and shaking hands, introducing myself, getting to know them a little bit more. And I got up to Joe. I said, hi, I'm Dana. How you doing, dear? She said, I'm not doing well at all. And I said, why is that? She said, well, normally by this time of night, Flip has been by here and kissed me 3 times. You haven't been here once.
In front of you.
So I'm going to break the ice a little bit because we haven't really crossed the line yet. But this is for Hadaway. Hadaway is from a different country. Everybody knows that. And Flip really loved her too. And we used to drive up to Rincon West every once in a while to go to his dances. And about 2 years ago, we went up there. It was wintertime, and he had a little cold. And the door is over in the corner. And as soon as she comes through the door, she starts running across the floor to give Flip a big kiss. And Flip raises both of his hands like this and goes, stop! I got the gonorrhea. Well, with the loss in translation, she didn't quite understand what he meant. and she thought he said diarrhea. So she went over and gave him a big kiss anyway, and she couldn't understand why they shouldn't touch each other. So,
How was an English lesson?
Now the line is going to be crossed for sure.
No. Flip and I used to call each other, a couple times a month, and he'd always tell me dirty stories. I'd tell him dirty stories. And I think the first time we went to Kirkwood, I told Dee, I said, look, she had never met Flippo. She said, okay, what I need to know about Flippo. And I said, well, he's going to try to get one over on you just as soon as he meets you. She was like, okay. So that first night at Kirkwood, we go into the dance hall. He come over, shook my hand, gave her a big hug and a kiss, and he said, all first-time wives at Kirkwood have to sleep with me. She said, I heard it's not a big thing. And he hit me. But we would pick Flippo up, and there'd be dances we'd go do, and it was always fun to have him in the truck, because he'd be telling you a story. He'd tell you a story of whatever caller, whatever state. He knew the names of everything, and right in the middle he'd go to sleep. He'd be laying there in the truck, and it sounded, and K.O. could probably help me with this, when he slept, he sounded when he snored like he was drowning. It was this really weird, and I don't think anybody else had that snore, but in the middle of his snoring, he would sleep sometimes 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, wake up, and continue the story right where he left it off. Other times he'd be driving and we'd be in the truck cruising down the road and he'd be sound asleep. And he'd wake up and go, want me to drive? And I'd go, I got it. And he'd go, oh, it was amazing. And what other story did you want me to tell?
We got to wait a few more people die off.
Oh, where'd Randy go? No, hey, Randy, what's up, Randy Phillips? Wrong Randy. But one time on Flippo's birthday, Doherty and I were doing a dance together, and we were in Dallas. And so I called Flip on his cell phone from my cell phone, and I'm talking to him, and Randy said, okay, what I'm going to do is call him on his house phone. So Randy's sitting across the table from me, and so in a few minutes after we got the conversation started, he calls Flippo on his home phone. Well, then Flippo's got the cell phone in one ear, and he's got his home phone in the other ear, and he's talking to us, and having a good time. He goes, I got Doherty on the other line, and blah, 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 blah. Well, then we switched phones. I gave Randy my phone, and Randy gave me his phone, and it took Flip, I don't know, several minutes, and he went, stop! And he goes, you're in the wrong ear. But yeah, he was always a hoot. I tell you what, we will miss him and love him to death. But, huh? Do what? Oh, yeah. And Nisa can help with this one. She's probably still mad at me. But we were at Kirkwood, and we had one of those staff meetings after the after party, after the drinks, and we'd gone out to check in some of the local establishments with a staff party. We used to have those. And Flippo, we get back to Kirkwood, and he's like, huh? Hang on, okay, you'll have it. Anyway, we get back to Kirkwood, and Flip's like, let's get something to eat. So we go down to the kitchen at Kirkwood, and we're eating some great food. You ladies were fantastic. And there was in the already cut Boston cream pie. Already cut on the plates for lunch, I guess the next day. I didn't know what it was for, but I ate several. And the next day at lunch, we're sitting there, and the lovely Nisa Flippo comes out and tells everybody, she said, we were going to have Boston cream pie for lunch. She said, but as she's looking at me, she says, somehow it came up magically missing. She said, so I have now made, I think she made pineapple upside down cake as well. So, yeah, so if you've never forgiven me for that, I'm so sorry. But it was really good stuff. Well, one of those staff meetings, we decided to go to one of the local establishments one night. And I told the gang that was with us, I said, look, I'll drive. That way y'all have a few drinks, do what you want to do, doesn't matter. And this was a fairly new place. And Flippo took us to it. And everybody had drinks except me. I had Dr. Pepper that night. And I told him as we were getting ready to go, I had the keys, and I said, I'll meet y'all at the car. And for those that know me, I'm very well balanced as far as I know. Don't fall down very often. And when I came out of the bar, there was a step down. There was no step. I fell out the door, belly first, on my hands, and I look up as I'm laying on the ground. I look up and there's 2 police cars, nose together. Police officers leaning up against those cars with their arms crossed, their leg crossed, they're looking right at me. I looked up, I went, somebody stole the step. And Flippo's over the car going, oh God, we're going to jail. I actually got up, stumbled over to the car, got in the back seat, immediately announced that somebody had stole the steering wheel, got out of the car, got to the front seat, sat down in the front seat, and remind yourself, I have not had a drink. Put the seat belt through the steering wheel, then went ahead and hooked it around myself, backed out, and drove off, and the cops never moved. And the whole time I could hear Flippo going, we're going to jail, we're going to jail, call somebody with bail money, we're going to jail. But anyway, like I said, we will miss him dearly. He was a super man and good friend.
Hello. There we go. My name is Loretta Horner Miller, and I've had the privilege for the last year of talking to Flip every week for an hour, interviewing him and gathering his life to put together his biography. And what an experience that was. I just want you to know that he has stories on a lot of you guys. And there were a lot of you guys that he said he could not publish the stories. But the thing that I really wanted to share with you that I got out of the last year of talking to him was he was such a humble man. He never has understood the position he holds in the square dance history line. And from the very get-go, he said to me, promise me you do not make me a hero in this book. So I did. And so we talked about title, we talked about format. He wanted it to know, he's had his finger in the pot the whole way. He wanted this to be this way. He said, oh man, did you see how big that Bob Osgood book was? I don't want it that thick. No. So he had lots of things that he wanted, and about 4 or 5 months ago, he called, or I talked to him, and he said, okay, I've got a chapter I want before the chapter that is Marshall Flippo was born, and it's a dirty joke that Sharon Junk told me the very first time I met her, and you got to clean it up because I want it to be in the book. So so we laughed about it. He told me the joke, and you know, it was it's interesting. But anyway, but then about a month ago or 2 months ago, he changed that first chapter, and to me, this is really what Flip is about. He said, Loretta, I want a chapter in the book that is titled "All the Callers That Helped Me Get to Where I Am Today." So, you know, he made a list about 6 months ago we went through, and in his memory, he made a list of about 2.5 pages of callers that he wanted to tell stories on. And so we worked our way. We did finish the list. We did go through all the stories or all the callers that he wanted to have stories about. But he said there's a couple of things that he repeated. I was the luckiest man in the world. I was at the right place at the right time. The other thing he said was, you know what, there were a lot of good callers out there. And that's the description. When he would start talking about any of the callers as the names came up, the very first thing he would say, man, they were good callers. They were good friends of mine. But then he said to me, this was one of the later things that he said, you know, I am, you know, I don't know if I'm that great. He said, I do know that I had one thing that maybe some other people didn't have, and that was I love people. So, you know, this man, he really didn't know the size of person that he was. And the other thing I'll leave you with, anytime he talked about somebody, it was important that he had a funny story to tell on them. He didn't want it to be serious, he wanted it to be funny. So he would say, oh, I'll jot that down and I'll call Wade or I'll call Gary. Gary was his go-to man. I'll call Wade, I'll call Gary, I'll call Ken, you know, because he said, I got to have that story. So I'm envisioning now somewhere there is a stack of little notes because he didn't get back to me on some of those stories. But every time we talked, he'd jot down notes about who he, I'll get that information for you. So it's been a privilege.
How are we going to be able to get a copy of this book? Is it going to be on Amazon?
It will be on Amazon. It'll be all over.
And the name of it is?
We fought over that too. He did not want his picture on the cover of the book, and I think John had talked. Is John here? I can't. My eyes are really messed up. I'm sorry. John Flippo. Yeah. I think that you maybe had talked him into putting a picture of him on the back of the cover, didn't you?
Something like that.
Yeah, he had. There was one picture of him that. Well, he didn't want his picture on the cover, so we went around that, and I'll tell you what the cover is going to be. But the title that I came up with immediately, and Melton was kind of, when I talked to him about it, it was what he entitled his speech whenever he did the award, Another Square Dance Caller, just another square dance caller. When I told Flip that, he's worrying about it selling. And he said if it has square dance in the title, nobody's going to buy your book, Loretta. Let's don't have that. So, yeah, but that's what I'm thinking the title is going to be. But the cover is going to be pictures of the places that he loved to call at. A picture of, I've got a collage of pictures, and it will have a picture of the Wagon Wheel. It has the Seal Lamar, Chula Vista, and Kirkwood. So that's what the cover is going to be. So information will be out. We'll get it out for sure. So thank you. And you know what? This has been very special being here today, hearing all of your stories, because, you know, you all knew him in a different way. I've been dancing all my life, but only been involved in the dance world here in the last about 25 years, and hearing your stories about him is just amazing. So thanks for being here and sharing them.
Go to the bathroom now, John.
We'll see you back tomorrow.